Adventist vegetarian diabetics. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good.
Carb Calculations. If you are following a dietary protocol that requires counting carbohydrates, and you should be, the first question may be, should I count total carbs or net carbs? And what is the difference? In the United States, properly labeled packaged food shows total carbohydrates as a main category with subcategories of dietary fiber, sugar, and sugar alcohols. What does all that even mean? How to read nutrition information on a label. Total fat. The following are types of fats. Saturated fats. No distinction is made between healthy saturated fats and unhealthy fats. Trans fats. All trans fats are unhealthy. Total carbohydrates. In the United States, this means total carbohydrates. In some other countries, the fiber is subtracted and only available carbohydrates are listed. The following are types of carbohydrates. Dietary fiber. Typically, this means indigestible fiber. May be subtracted from total carbohydrates to calculate net carbohydrates. Sugar. Typically, refers to added sugar. For a diabetic, this number is meaningless, since all digestible carbohydrates convert to glucose in the digestion process, beginning with saliva in the mouth. Do not subtract sugar from total carbohydrates. Sugar alcohols. Artificial sweeteners, typically ending with -ital or -ose. Also may be subtracted from total carbohydrates to calculate net carbs since, for many people, sugar alcohols do not elevate blood glucose. What are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates include sugars, starches, and soluble and insoluble fiber. Dr. Eric Westman of Duke University uses total carbs in his diabetes clinic. He uses total carbs because some people do absorb the fiber carbs, so the net carbs calculated may underestimate the effects of the carbs on their metabolism. Should we count total carbs or net carbs? The American Diabetes Association's recommendation for daily carbs is based on net carbs, which is total carbs minus fiber carbs and sugar alcohols. Most of the time, the fiber carbs in a packaged food are added to the food, exogenous carbs, and are not part of the actual food. In addition, we can't always trust the food manufacturer to be honest about the fiber carb content. The commonly held advice to subtract fiber from the total amount of carbohydrate on the label to arrive at net carbs can lead to an underestimation of nutrient intake, as well as an underestimation of the effect of the food on blood glucose and insulin release when those foods are processed. Michaela Thornton of Diabetes Daily says, counting net carbs may work for some people, but it is not a way of counting carbs certified diabetes educators or other health professionals are likely to endorse, nor a legal term, but rather a food industry marketing phrase. Where did the net carbs scam come from? In a September 2017 podcast with Dr. Michael Eads, who with his wife Mary wrote Protein Power in 1996, Dr. Eads revealed the origin of the net carbs concept. His original intent was for subtracting fiber from real foods like raspberries to allow greater flexibility in food choices and making better food quality picks for low carbs. But what it turned into was a marketing opportunity for companies to push junk food under the guise of it being lower carb. Whether it's net carbs, effective carbs, or however else they try to push it on the public, the only way to be intellectually honest about your own personal carb tolerance level is to count all carbohydrates. The podcast host continued by saying, if you can have more, it just means your carb tolerance is higher. Congratulations and celebrate that. I'm well aware fiber doesn't raise blood sugar and insulin levels as quickly as other carbohydrates, but here's the thing, there's still a response in your blood sugar and insulin levels even if it's not as big. So let's not pretend it was the net carbs that got you the results in your approach. Your body was simply able to handle those carbs efficiently. But the flip side of that is people with insulin resistance, and that's most people these days, who think they're eating low carb because they're only having 30 grams net carbs when the actual carb count is 50 grams total carbs. And then they blame the diet for not working when they were just overloading their body with too many carbs. I encourage people to actually test for nutritional ketosis and blood sugar so you know what those carbs are doing in your body, not some net carbs math game that will lead to frustration and failure in the end. Kudos to Dr. Michael Eads for recognizing the mistake he made with all the honorable motivation for helping people be more savvy in their low-carb lifestyle. Unfortunately, this Pandora's box is so wide open it's never getting shut again. But now that you know the genesis of the whole net carbs scam, you can completely avoid it. The most reliable source of information about carbohydrates is the book by internist Dr. Eric Westman, with Amy Berger, a certified nutrition specialist, End Your Carb Confusion, a simple guide to customize your carb intake for optimal health. Dr. Westman gives you the information you need to start reclaiming your health today, no complicated and confusing scientific gobbledygook, only exactly what you need to understand how you got to where you are, hint, it's not your fault, and, more important, how to get to where you want to be. Dr. Westman strongly recommends using total grams of carbohydrates, not net carbs. And so do we. If you ever pick up a packaged food and see the label touting net carbs on it, put it back on the shelf and go to the produce section to find real whole foods instead. What we recommend. Understand how to calculate net carbs from total carbs. Then determine if you are going to use total carbs or net carbs, and use it consistently.
Visit our website at AdventistVegetarianDiabetics.com. Follow our blog at AdventistVegetarianDiabetics.com/blog posts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/AdventistVegetarianDiabetics. Copyright by Adventist Vegetarian Diabetics.